My name's David. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, David.
Obviously, we all know what happened 15 years ago. It changed the world forever, as some of those catalytic events do. I do have to say, unfortunately, last week's message on Step 9 was not videotaped, so you have to hear it again. So if you're back, my mom called like over and over again this week to demand that it was shown again. She used different voices trying to get them convinced that it was the whole audience who was calling. So I appreciate that, Mom. Thank you. Whoever did that. Oh, up, stop. Anyway, it is with a heavy heart that I speak here tonight for lots of reasons. The first one, we all know what happened 15 years ago. And unfortunately, that means that we've had between our countries, our neighbors to the south, which is, I'm also an American as well. I was born there. And something gets in your blood when you're born there. Like it's, thankfully, if you leave there long enough, it doesn't get up to your head totally, so you can kind of balance out a life that's not completely redonkulous. But when I think about the last 15 years and what it's meant, it connects to forgiveness, which is the spirit of this step, right? We've been at war for 15 consecutive years. 15 consecutive years. We've sent men and women to fight, to die, to sacrifice. And I don't know, don't get me wrong here, I'm not judging the merit, okay? I'm not a politician. I'm not taking a side. I always support our troops, no matter what, because our troops are our brothers and our sisters. Two of them were my brothers. I was in the Army briefly, but I could not be considered a soldier because I did it to basically escape my life, whereas my brothers did it because they wanted to serve. But as time goes on, I can't ignore the fact that it's been 15 years. What a long time to hold a grudge. What a long time to carry that bitterness and that resentment. And don't get me wrong, I hope I never forget what happened. I hope I never forget the people that were lost, the people that have been lost since, all around the world, not just in North America. Because see, what happened for me, and I know that probably anyone in here who's of age, except for the kids maybe, would remember what they were doing that day when it happened. I remember I was in my addiction, and I woke up, and I didn't have cable back then, because I was much too busy doing exciting things to need cable, basically just passing out, so I had no time to watch TV. But I got up to go to work. I was working night shift, so I slept in the morning, and then I got up to go to work, and I stopped at the gym before I got to work. And every TV in the gym had the video of the planes going into the buildings. And I went to the desk and I said, look, like I don't know what's going on. Like, why is this movie on every station? I had no idea, right? I had no idea. And then the girl said to me, you don't know what happened? And obviously, like, I lived in a box, right, or something. But I kind of did. I had a home phone with like a landline and stuff. And so I didn't get news on my phone like I do now. So when she told me what happened, I started to pay attention, obviously, to the TV. And I realized, I knew instinctively in that moment, when my Canadian blood and my American blood collided together, I knew the world was never going to be the same. Much like it happens for us as we recover, right? The world, if we're lucky, doesn't have to be the same. Now that sends fear down the spines and into the hearts of most of us. Well, what does that mean? I don't know what that looks like. I'm terrified because most human beings are afraid of change, right? And in that moment, I was angry. Like lots of people were angry, and lots of people still are angry. But I know through the years, my dad and I have talked at length about that, about how do we get past the anger? How do we get past the anger and move forward so that we can stop dying and killing because of it? And it's important for lots of reasons, right? Just like when we recover individually, it's important for lots of reasons. And again, I'm not claiming to be an authority on any of that stuff. The political stuff is not my arena. I avoid those debates like the plague, right? Because it does me no good, and it usually does no one else any good. I don't know what's right or wrong to fight over, except for life, maybe, right? I don't. Like, I know if we go back in history and look at our involvement, Canada and the United States, in different wars across the globe, we could say, oh man, I tell you what, that Hitler, he was a bad egg, right? We needed to get rid of that guy. Most of us could agree on that, right? But even if we didn't agree on it, because there's got to be some people who are like, yeah, but was everything worth it? I don't know, right? And then when they started to show these, when we started to have access to 24-hour news, and we were able to see, like, nothing hurt me deeper when people were cheering at the hanging of people. That hurt me so deeply. And it's because it brought up the truth that I want to forgive, right? Just like I know for working with new people in recovery and people who aren't in recovery, most people want to be forgiven. They think, I don't know why my family just can't get over it. Like, look, I stole their money, I ruined their lives, I caused them to be jealous, insecure, I caused them to lose maybe everything. But I don't know why they can't get over it. It's been 3 months since I sobered up. Why are they not better? Right? And then but we have a hard time turning that around, right? And some psychologists call that like bias blindness, right? When I can easily see what you're doing, but I've done nothing wrong, right? Because I have an easy time with that. I'm biased to myself, right? It's like I have friends that have done negative things to people, right? But I could easily judge someone I don't like for those things as opposed to my friends for those things. Unless I start to actually look at things the way they are. We all make mistakes, right? And this is one of the big things that's happening right now, right? In the world as it applies to each of us, because the world is just an extension of us. We're not separate from it. We don't get to be separate from it anymore. How many people in here have a smartphone? Probably everybody, right? Heads nod. Even Megan has one. I'm going to talk to your dad about that. I don't like that you have one. I don't like that my niece has one either. But everybody has one. So it's not separate from us anymore. We perpetuate these things, whether it be bigotry, racism, whatever it is. And part of that's because we can't forgive, right? We want to be forgiven, we want to be accepted, but we can't accept. You know? And that is a part of this step 9. Hello. I'm just glad he's not back there like last week hitting his head on the pew. That makes me feel better. But it's all a part of step 9. It's all connected. This is how we get forgiveness. It's not a one-sided thing. When we start to feel it, we start to give it, right? I was not always feeling the way I feel about this right now. Like I said, when that 15 years ago, when it hit me what had happened, and I knew the world would be at war for however long it would be at war for, because being an American, I understand that we don't forget, right? We don't forget things, but we do need to start to forgive things. I'm not saying that I would ever forget. I hope I don't. Because I've lost people that I went to school with who served, right? Because I went to high school there. And I lost friends of friends, and I have friends now who are in law enforcement all across like North America. And they're all targets based on these things. Based on one side not forgiving another side, not forgiving another side. Right? And one of the things, anyone who works with new people who are going through the steps, we can see that. When someone comes in to do a 4 and a 5, and you talk to them, they ask about like amends, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can make those amends. That's fine, but we're closing the door. As soon as we say, I'm not making those amends, I'm closing the door to forgiveness, right? It's an eye for an eye. And we all know what the Bible said about that, right? A bunch of one-eyed people running around like patches and pirates. And mind you, pirates would be cool because obviously I come from pirates. As my dad has told everybody, ad nauseum, about the pirate ships and stuff. So a patch wouldn't be bad, except for the missing eye part, right? So I found, obviously I looked through the Bible and I looked at like different scriptures as it kind of, I guess, is connected to forgiveness. And it talks throughout the Bible about God forgiving us if we come to him honestly. Why are we having such a hard time with this? I understand looking at the Bible and saying, oh my goodness, God is a jerk, right? I get it. I understand. All we have to do is turn the TV on and you hear some crazy person, no offense to myself and others who might be struggling with something that makes them feel crazy, but we see some person telling you that God said these people were bad and those people are good. How hard is that to get your head around? Especially if we grew up in that, or if we see that everywhere. And now we're involved in this, as I mentioned, 15-year conflict over what people are calling religion and God. I don't know about you guys. I don't see God there. I don't see it. I can't see it. What I see God is when people come to us and they genuinely want to get better. I see Jesus and I see God. In my friend Ken, who passed away, I saw God. I knew peace when I looked at him, when I talked to him, when I listened to him. And that made me realize more and more that God was in fact alive in people. Not some war, right? Not some conflict. And don't get me wrong, like I don't know what to do. Like, are we supposed to not punch back when we're punched? I don't know, right? Because I could say, I'll try not to, but maybe I won't be able to handle it. So I don't know what the answer is there. But I know that if we can help it, one thing that's helped me and others in recovery is not punching first, right? Is continuing to walk away when we can, right? I don't know about you, but I know for me, when I first started to recover and be sober, it was really hard to get my head around pride. Everything was pride. Oh my goodness, that person looked at me the wrong way. Now I got to get mad, and now I got to say something. And then they say something back, and then now I'm justified to be mad, right? Because I can't forgive. I can't ignore it. Until time goes on and we work the steps gradually, right? These things start to change us. We don't change it. This changes us. So when I looked at the scripture, and I did find quite a bit, this is from the Message. He doesn't endlessly nag and scold, nor hold grudges forever. He doesn't treat us as our sins deserve, nor pay us back in full for our wrongs. As high as heaven is over the earth, so strong is his love to those who fear him. And as far as sunrise is from sunset, he has separated us from our sins. As parents feel for their children, God feels for those who fear him. He knows us inside and out, keeps in mind that we are made of mud. Men and women don't live very long. We flourish like a flower in the field. The wind blows over it, and it is gone. And its place remembers it no more. Now I understand the word fear is in there, and I don't want to spread that rumor, right? Because I'm not afraid of God. I'm not. I haven't been since I started to recover, and I came to this church and started to feel love of God as opposed to fear. I think that David, when he wrote this, I think that was David that wrote that, he was afraid, right? Maybe he didn't have any reason to not be afraid. I can't speak for him, but I'll speak for myself. I'm not afraid of God. I'm afraid of not forgiving. I'm afraid of the man that I become when I hold a grudge. You could go that way. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of holding a grudge. I'm afraid of continuing and perpetuating a state of affairs that will affect my nieces and my nephews, other people's children. Yesterday I went to the hospital and they showed a picture of my nephew. He's so cute. He's so little. I put my hand on his head and his whole head was in there. That tiny little head in there. And all I could think of was, I sure hope you guys do better than we did. You know, I hope that this new generation of people, of kids and kids that are younger than me, I sure hope they can do better than I did at this forgiveness thing. I sure hope somehow, with all the smarts they have and the capabilities that we have as a society, I sure hope they can. I hope they can do as good as we think they can, right? So this goes back to change and fearing change. Lots of times people say, you know, because I'm getting to that age now where some of my friends are old enough to be like, back in my day, and they're kicking their cane and their walkers, and they walk like this back in my day. And they say things like, well, kids will never know what it's like to have to ride their bikes to find out where everybody is. And I'm like, yeah, I used to complain about it all the time. I'm like, man, if only there was an easier way to find my friends. So some kids created an easier way, right? They created many easier ways. I am just not that person anymore. Fighting that change is what creates that bitterness. The change in ourselves, the change in others, the change in the world that is an extension of us. I don't want to be considered an extension of a part of that, right? Sometimes, because I think, oh, that hurts, like this really sucks. When people die and kids die and all these things happen, that really sucks. But the truth is, I'm here. So what am I going to do? Personally, can work the steps, can try to get better, can try to do better, can say, well, if I can't forgive, how can I talk to others about it? Well, that's the message. That's what I want to leave with tonight. I want to leave with the message that we can do it. We can. It's not a perfect science, but it can be done. Do we have to let go of things? Yes, we do. Anyone in recovery in this room, were you able to hold on to everything you ever did and wanted? Or did you have to make some changes? Did we have to let go of some of those things? We did. And as a world, we may have to do something similar so that maybe, and I know we have no control over that, but maybe something as catastrophic as what happened 15 years ago doesn't have to happen again. Unfortunately, maybe we're not there yet. But I hope my nephews, and especially the little ones who are so young, because the older ones are, you know, they might be too far gone already. I'm just kidding. They do know how to operate a computer too, so they'll probably watch it on YouTube and be like, oh, that's my uncle, a jerk. He was a bad egg, that one. But hopefully, they can do better than we did, because they'll have different opportunities. But we can help them do better by letting them know where we went wrong. And that's what step 9 is about. Where did we go wrong? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, David.